Wait, so you watched Sabrina, that new Sabrina show on Netflix?
I didn't finish the first episode, but I think I'm going to try to watch it again.
You didn't finish it because you didn't like it?
No, I don't know why. I just had such high expectations, and then I was disappointed.
Excuse my coughing this episode, guys. I'm sick, as you can hear. Yeah, I had super high expectations. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was a little bit disappointing because I think they tried too much to stay, like, either, like, family-friendly or they didn't, like, they tried to be, like, dark and creepy but also stay family-friendly, and I don't think it did well for the show to play it that way.
Yeah,
you know
how many episodes did you end up watching?
I think I'm still watching it. I think I'm, like, 6 or 7 episodes in.
Okay. Yeah, I just felt with, like, some of the editing felt really cheesy to me, how they do that blur effect a lot.
Oh, I saw that on Twitter. I didn't get that. So, I don't know if it's my TV or what, but, like, a lot of times when I watch shows that are, like, really dark, like, I couldn't see any of, like, the dark scenes if I watched it during the day of The Haunting of Hill House. So I didn't notice that blur effect, but I did see, like, a meme about that on Twitter.
Yeah, I probably liked it, and you probably saw it, because they do this blur effect where only the one or two of the characters is in focus, and it's just a lot. And some people that have, like, motion sickness even said they couldn't handle watching it because it made them feel sick. Yeah. And yeah, but it's not just that. I don't know. There was also a lot of it felt like they were trying to be very political in just the first episode. And I didn't even finish it. So, and I've heard from a friend that it gets better, but that was just a lot. It was kind of distracting, and I felt like it took away from...
In the first episode, did they talk about how, like, they're forming, like, Wicca or whatever? I can't remember if that was in the first episode.
They talked about how they were going to start a club, but they didn't name it yet.
Yeah, a lot of shows do that, though. They try to be, like, really culturally relevant and speak to, like, social issues going on. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna stick with it and watch the whole first season, or part, or whatever they call it, and see how it pans out, and I'll let you know.
Okay, but I'm gonna try it again, and I'm gonna get through it just so I can...
I just think that it should either be... It should be dark, or it should be, like, the sitcom-y, like, happy-go-lucky comic version of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But it's called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so it should be chilling. And it is not.
I agree. And it's also produced by the producers of Riverdale.
Right.
And I really liked season 1 of Riverdale, and then I tried to watch season 2, and I felt kind of the same way as I did about Sabrina. I was, like, disappointed, and I thought it was kind of cheesy, and...
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I read stuff online that said that they're probably going to do a crossover in the future.
That's interesting.
Because they were both, like, comics back in, like, the 60s or whatever, 60s and 70s. And I mean, Greendale is the town next to Riverdale. So it would make sense that their two worlds would, like, they exist in the same universe. So
yeah,
the characters might cross paths at some point, especially since, like, you're not watching it right now, but I'm watching the 3rd season of Riverdale, and they're starting to get into, like, the more, like, supernatural side of things. So I can definitely see them crossing over in the future. But hold on, let's roll the intro music.
Okay.
Basic and Beyond. I'm Christina.
I'm Lauren.
This episode is going to come out a couple days before Halloween, so we are going to make it real spooky and talk about some of the origins of Halloween traditions. But speaking of before we get into that, speaking of, like, the new shows on Netflix, so you watched all of Hill House, right? Thanks for telling me to watch that, by the way.
You're welcome. You liked it.
I loved it. It was so good.
Yes, I loved it too. It was perfectly, like, the perfect amount of scary. It was a perfect blend of, like, family drama and horror. I loved
They
it.
just
The acting was really
like,
good.
I think that if you took out all of the ghosts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't really be a scary movie, but it would or scary show, but it would still be so good. Because
I agree.
it talks about like mental illness and depression and grief and death, and it just like has so much to it, so much meat to it, and then you add all that scary stuff and you're just like, yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, so many layers, and I loved how the first like 5 or so episodes each focused on a different character, and you got to see, and I also loved how it used a lot of flashbacks, and like the time, I don't know what the term for this is in like film, but the sequence of scenes, it wasn't always in chronological order. It was jumping back and forth a lot, but I thought that made it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, it did. At times, it kind of made it like frustrating, I feel like, because like you just wanted to know what was happening in that timeline, and then they would like jump away to something else. But the only thing I would say is like, I understand the point of going through all of the like family members, like giving them each an episode, but that was kind of like, and like everything that they showed you in those episodes was important, but it also kind of like left me wanting to see more of like a chronological line to the show.
Yeah, I agree. But that's also what made me sit down and binge watch the whole thing.
Yeah, same.
Because I had to find out what was going to happen.
Yeah, same.
But, yeah, and I didn't feel like any of the horror was cheesy at all. It was really scary.
Well, if you guys haven't watched The Haunting of Hill House, go watch it. I tried to get some of my friends to watch it, and it freaked them out a lot, and they don't want to watch it. They're really scared of the bent neck lady.
Yeah, the bent neck lady is scary, but once you find out more about her...
That's what I told them. I was like, in the end, like, everything becomes considerably less scary and a lot more depressing.
Yeah, very depressing. I actually have read that they are really considering a sequel, or like a second season.
To cover what?
I don't know, but they got such a good response from that show that I don't think it had been officially like greenlit yet, but I know they were talking about it, and I really hope they do. But also, it's like one of those things where the first part is so good.
Yeah.
Do you want to ruin it? Yeah.
No, but I would still watch whatever they put out, you know?
Me too. Definitely. I would love to see something that dates back to like the origin of the house and like what happened before the
what
family
made it
moved
that
in.
way? Like what made it like, I don't even know what you would call it. Like what made it haunted,
like,
I guess.
That would be an awesome second season.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that.
Okay,
so like I said, we are going to talk about some of the origins of Halloween, and Halloween traditions and ideas and stuff. So, I'm going to like kind of like go over some of the stuff that I've found, and I found really interesting. I know that there's a lot of other cultures that, like what we know as Halloween today has pulled from, but I'm only going to cover a few because, I mean, we would go on for days. All modern American holidays are a mishmash of like hundreds of different cultures and different holidays from the past. So, so I first want to talk about like the pagan origins of it, because I think it's I want to say that's probably the oldest, because those were back in like 200 AD. There, I mean, they might have pulled from religions and cultures before that, but it originated. Halloween originated, or Halloween tradition originated with the ancient Celtic or Celtic festival of Samhain, but it's spelled Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. So, I mean, that kind of gives you a general idea of where some of it came from without even going into it.
definitely.
In the 18th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve, and later Halloween. And so, the Celts who lived, I guess they say lived 2,000 years ago, in what's now Ireland. The United Kingdom and Northern France celebrated their New Year on November 1st. So, like, it was the end of the summer and the end of harvest and the beginning of winter. So that was kind of why they deemed that the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. Because it was the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time that was often associated with human death. So the Celts believed that on the night before the New Year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to the earth. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, they believed that the presence of the otherworldly spirits made it easier for druids, which are Celtic priests, to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on volatile natural world, these prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long dark winter. So basically, it's what we explained it as now, or what, like, people say the actual, like, meaning of Halloween now is when, like, the veil between the worlds are, like, thin and ghosts come out to play.
I see.
Which kind of makes sense because everything's darker, like, the days are shorter, there's less light. You would associate that with death, and, I mean, I would. Not death, but you would associate with, like, darkness and all things that come along with darkness and the unknown. Yeah,
I agree. Do you know, I know Halloween is celebrated in the U.S. and in Europe. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly which countries. I don't think it's really big in Australia.
Or the UK. I don't think, like, no one, like, really trick-or-treats in the UK. I don't think. Or they don't really have Halloween parties or anything like that.
I would be really interested to find out, like, why Halloween is the way it is in the US versus in the UK and in Australia. I know that one of the bloggers I follow, I can't remember if they're from the UK or Australia. I'm pretty sure it's Australia. They said that in Australia, all of their costumes are always really scary and gory.
Oh, really?
Not like here. Yeah, not like here where girls will dress up and try
seriously,
to... Yeah.
I would say that probably a reason why it's so different in the United States versus other places in the world is because we're, like, when we brought over those, once were pagan traditions, then were taken by the Roman Catholic Church and basically washed all of the evil out of those traditions, brought it over to the United States, and then those traditions were then integrated with, like, Native American traditions and Central American traditions, and so they absorbed all those other traditions, and it became probably what we know today as what Halloween is.
Definitely. And I would be also interested to see, like, the evolution of what Halloween was with the founding of the United States compared to what it is now, because just with like, thinking back to the Salem witch trials, people were killed because they were suspected of being witches, so it's hard to imagine that there would be a holiday that celebrates
I think originally it wasn't really a holiday. It was more it was like, my dad gave me this book that has, like, talks about paganism and, like, how a lot of our holidays are based in paganism, and it says it was a dreaded occasion since it was thought that the time stood still and the souls of the dead walked the land. Gifts, especially food, were left outside these roaming ghosts with the hope that no harm would come to the households. So, like, I don't know if it was originally thought of as a holiday and more of, like, an occasion, because, like I said, it's like, it's the summer is over, the harvest has already happened, like, the darkness and the cold is coming. So I wouldn't say it's like a celebration, but
I see. So it was more time to, like, beware of.
Yeah, but also, again, like, it probably changed when Christians got their hands on that version of the holiday. And obviously witchcraft is, like, whatever, condemned in most forms of Christianity. So they associate that with, like, a negative connotation. But
yeah.
And then when people really started celebrating Halloween for what it is today, it wasn't it was like pretty recently. Like I want to say in the last century.